Okay, Sistas fans, now, hey, going at Karen, low hanging fruit at this point, but then again, it doesn't help that each episode it seems like Karen gives us just one more reason not to really side with her or like her for the most part. But this video is kind of a change of pace in terms of I wanted to talk about 5 times. 5 times, in my personal opinion as a viewer of this show, 5 times in the Sistas series that I actually sided with Karen. That I actually saw the perspective from where she was coming from, where she was pretty much standing on her own. She has that victim mentality of, you know what, no one's ever on my side. Nobody ever wants to hear me out, yada, 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 yada. But in these situations, I personally side with her despite what the other characters have to say. And this is in no particular order, but I just wanted to speak from my perspective. And if there are any scenarios in the show that I didn't mention in this video, but you felt like, you know what, Jeremy, that's a good list, but here's one time I actually felt like Karen was in the right and everybody else was in the wrong and treated her like, the oddball. So with that being said, let's get into it. The first one I wanted to talk about is pretty much telling Aaron to back off. In terms of, hey, you know what, the whole random pop-ups, pretty much like Preston when it comes to Danny, but I mean, Aaron is just worse. The random pop-ups unannounced at her home, at her job. You need to respect boundaries. And I keep seeing this quote whenever I'm scrolling online, like, those people in your life who get upset that you have boundaries shouldn't be in your life or something to that effect. Aaron just keeps, I don't know, popping up, and it doesn't matter how many times you tell him, hey, you're sweet, you're kind, you're thoughtful, but I'm going to need you to kind of back off. I don't need you popping up every single day. This isn't like Preston where he's staying at, Danny's place. This is Aaron and Karen are separate. Well, live in separate places. Well, I mean, he just randomly said, I'm moving in. And it's like, wait, what? So, you know what I'm saying. But I just feel like Aaron definitely needs to respect boundaries. And I said this for years. He's essentially Gary 2.0 in some ways. He's just a little more subtle about it. He just comes across less as a manipulator, but in some ways he is. I think it goes back to that one episode in season 3, I think. It could have been 4, but season 3, I'm guessing. But it was that time where Aaron picked a movie, and, the movie was pretty much where the woman at the end picked her, I guess you could say, more consistent, more reasonable love interest than the ex-con, which obviously was a reference to Zach and Aaron, and he acted like it wasn't. But yeah, Aaron definitely needs to understand boundaries instead of, hey, how many times has Karen said, I'm still in love with Zach? And then Aaron, even worse is when Aaron's like, hey, yeah, you know what? You've been together for years. I understand. I'll back off. I'll give you space. But the next thing you know, he's all up in her face or calling saying, God told me that you're the one for me. And I don't know, it's just a bit much. So yeah, I definitely feel for Karen when it comes to telling Aaron to back off. And thankfully over time, there have been, the girls saying, what are you doing? Preacher Man's great. Why are you telling him to back off and whatnot? But now, you have Aaron and Pam both collectively like, you need to give Karen space when she says she needs space. Enough said. All right. Season 1, one of the biggest drama arcs of that season was Zach being high and basically spilling the tea. And what was it? He was high off of Danny's pen, cowboy hat, and rubber ducky in her bathtub. And pretty much, going on about how Karen and the girls talk smack about her behind their back. And Danny got in her feelings. She kept this grudge for a while. I remember this because I remember in season 1, like, I didn't really like Danny because of this, because of the fact that I get why the girls, or specifically Karen, said what she said, not about her, mooching off the others, always, getting the girls to pay for the food and whatnot. No, I'm specifically talking about one of Danny's biggest, pet peeves, which is to be kept out of the loop about things. And the thing about it is because she always runs her damn mouth. And I remember saying this back in my season 1 episodes, like, imagine, you went through something that was either, traumatic, triggering, or at the very core, it just annoyed you, or even worse, it just really hurt your feelings, and you confide, that situation to another person. And in Karen's case, remember, Karen is a strong, independent, sometimes arrogant woman. So it must be hard for her to be vulnerable to her girls by saying, hey, like, Zach really did this hurt my feelings, or, something at work happened, somebody just really went off and they said, I wasn't good at the hairstyle I did for him, just something like that. I can imagine somebody strong like Karen. And remember, this is like the early season Karen before the Karen we know now. So, go back to like season 1. So you have Danny who will like make jokes about stuff, and just, like, if you told Danny something, she's going to wind up telling everybody else. What kind of friend is that? Like, if I came to you on a one-on-one basis to like really confide in you and like, try to look for some, understanding, but it's kind of like those memes, like, what is it like when you tell your mom something and then the next day she's standing in front of like a news reporter? It's like, hey, I came to you so we can talk about something, or I could talk to you about something. It wasn't meant for everybody. If it was meant for everybody, I just would have posted it online or something. So yeah, I wouldn't want to tell Danny stuff, even if it was something like non-serious, because when you come to somebody to talk to them about something and they make it into a joke, that's not somebody you really want to talk to. I mean, sure, you have some people who make it to a joke to like kind of, get you to chuckle and make you feel better. But Danny can come across as mean-spirited. And once she gets started with the, the one-liners and the sarcasm, there's no end to it. So yeah, I definitely understand like Danny being kept in the dark about stuff. And this was before the whole, well, yeah, people, the girls don't come to Danny because they know she'll keep it real. No, I'm talking about the loud mouth, doesn't know when to quit with the joke season 1 Danny. In some ways, she still displays those traits. But yeah, I think when it comes to not telling Danny everything, basically, that's why the sister circle is half and half, where it's Karen and Andy on one side and Danny on the Sabrina and Sabrina on the other. Yeah, I can definitely side with Karen on not talking to Danny about everything. But, as the series went on, mainly when it came to Zach, she did go to her to talk a couple of times, but she doesn't really listen. So what does it matter? Okay. Number 3, dumping Zach. Season 1, or basically at the end of season, well, in season 1 and early season 2 when she picked Aaron, this choice isn't about me saying she chose right by choosing Aaron. I'm talking about just dumping Zach. And this is prior to getting him arrested for the credit card stuff and chasing him down about the baby daddy situation. No. I'm talking about just season 1. And Zach even confirmed that this was the right choice. Hey, we're not good for each other. This was at the end of season 3. I think that these two just really weren't a good fit. I mean, they must have had their relationship was nothing more than good sex. That's really what it boils down to. Zach definitely wasn't the kind of man he is now. The fact that their 3-year on again, off again, whatever you want to call it, but a relationship was awful. They had a good time. It's kind of like, Gone with the Wind, Rhett and Scarlett. I remember I read the book and the follow-up to it. There was a follow-up to it, and it was like Rhett never let Scarlett back into his heart, but he didn't mind letting her back into his bed. I feel like that's the same thing with Zach and Karen, where they would have incredible sex, and then that's it. After that, it's just nonstop fighting, and they thrive off the drama. And then one of them decided to switch it up by not going back into the drama cycle. And now the other one's gone psycho. Karen. But yeah, I think that, this was the best move because Zach was trash. It's like every time they would like split up, he would get caught in an entanglement. And that's not to say Karen didn't have Rico over there too, but you know what I mean. But yeah, I don't think that these two would have made it long term. Hell, they could barely make it 3 episodes because the girls would even make bets with each other. That was kind of a running gag in the first couple of seasons. Like, damn, I guess I got to pay up because I thought they would have lasted, just 5 more hours before they got back together again. So yeah, dumping Zach was definitely a good move. Now you could argue that, I don't know, Jeremy. Well, no. It's not about her dumping Zach and then he gets a big windfall after the breakup. No, I'm on Karen's side because the STD scares, the constant cheating, it really wasn't worth staying together. Number 4, Zach getting arrested at the beginning of season 2 after he broke into the hotel room and started fighting Aaron. Karen did not want to bail him out. And I agree. Danny called, Andy came by the salon saying, hey, get that man out of jail. He's going to lose his job. Okay. Why the hell were they trying to get Karen to get him out of jail? She had nothing to do with that. Pam was the one that assumed that the flowers and the hotel accommodations were set up by Zach, gave that information to him. He had Fatima drop him off. He broke into the hotel and then got into the brawl and then got arrested and then Fatima got him out. Okay, but that's not Karen's fault. That's not Karen's fault. That's like if you broke up with your, boyfriend or whoever, you started dating someone else and you're at, let's say, your house together or your apartment. Your ex breaks into your apartment, starts brawling with your new guy, gets arrested. Why the hell would you get them out of jail? They're the ones who broke the law. They're the ones who got into the altercation. This has nothing to do with you. Like, why were the girls trying to guilt trip Karen when she had every right and no, responsibility to get Zach out of jail? That was wrong. So yeah, I definitely was on Karen's side. Then the final one, and this is a divisive one because I could really, this is the only one of the 5 where I could see both sides of this, perspective here. In my personal opinion, I don't think Karen was in the wrong for refusing to stand by Andy during the wedding that Gary surprised her with in season 3. Karen got a lot of flack for this one, but I wholeheartedly agree that if she did not want to stand and support her friend as she was about to make one of the biggest mistakes of her life, hey, more power to her. Now, on the flip side, the other girls, even Fatima, were like, well, regardless of whether or not this is a big mistake, we just need to be there to support Andy when she needs it the most. I get that perspective. But I think, what was it, season 2, around the halfway point, the mid-season, that was when, this was after Gary had squeezed Andy and bruised her ribs, and he demanded to get back the money that he gave her, and then they all met up at the bank, and then as soon as Gary left, Andy started breaking down. I think it was around that time, or late season 2, early season 3. Danny was just done with the whole Gary stuff. It's like, look, we've tried to tell Andy he's not a good dude, but Andy is a grown woman. She's going to make her own decisions. She's going to make mistakes. All we can do is kind of just be there once everything falls apart. But I think that that's a terrible idea because of the fact that I'm not saying you should stop being friends with somebody just because they make a bad decision, but you know how some people are assholes where they constantly go to people for advice. They give them sound advice, but they're going to, basically they go around asking people for advice, but they wind up doing exactly what they intended to do from the beginning. So what was the point of asking around? And with Karen, she had constantly seen how trash and keep in mind, only Karen knew about the 6-month affair that Andy was having with Gary prior to episode 1 of season 1. So she has more, background in terms of Andy's dynamic with Gary than Sabrina and Danny do. Now, I just don't feel like this was smart. I mean, sure, you could argue that Karen not being there was the reason Andy didn't go through with the wedding. But at the same time, if Andy wanted to get married to Gary, then fine. But even though I'm the friend, I don't think, she should expect me to be there when it all falls apart, because it's one of those, you don't want to be that kind of person, but hey, I told you so. It's like, what are you crying to me for? Like, me and the other girls, we told you what would happen. You opted to marry this manipulating abuser, his ex-wife, living proof of how trash he is, despite her own flaws. Told you. So what are you crying to me for? And I mean, based on what we know about season 6, Gary's pregnant fiance, Andy would have been in for quite the surprise if she did go through with the wedding. So in the long run, Karen was right. But here's the thing, though. I don't think it was wrong for the best friend to not be the maid of honor, because of the fact that my best friend is about to make the biggest mistake of her life. I remember, not Unsung, but it was called, what was it? It was called Tales from the Tour Bus. It was imagine Unsung from TV One, but animated. And it was the one about Rick James. Or what was it called? Mike Judd or something? Yeah, I think it was Mike Judd's Tales from the Tour Bus. And one of the guys from Rick James' band, this was after he was put in jail, had called him. And, Rick was telling him, was like, hey man, when are you going to come down and visit me? And he's like, I can't see someone that I love and respect so much locked up like a caged animal because they did something stupid. And he didn't go down there because, hey, we're cool. We've been friends for years, musical partners in the business, but I can't bring myself to see someone I love and admire locked up for making one of the dumbest mistakes ever. So, I mean, that's like, for example, if, let's say you're the child and you have one parent. Let's say, I don't know, one of your parents passed, one of your parents divorced. Well, just basically say you're in a situation where you're the child and you have a mom, like you're a single mom, and she is about to get married, but she's about to marry an abusive boyfriend, or in this case, abusive fiance. You don't want to stand by her because this guy is trash. I know how he treats my mom. I'm not going to be there. Are you wrong for not standing with your mom because this is someone she really loves? Or do you have every right not to be there because your mom is about to make one of the biggest mistakes of her life? I know it's a different scenario, friends and mothers, but it's the same rules apply. Why the hell would I stand there as you get married to this man, only down the road to be sitting in the front pew at your funeral because this dude had one of his fits and ended up killing your ass? You don't want to be part of that. When you've done everything you can to stop this relationship, but then you have to realize that, well, she's a grown woman making dumbass decisions, there's nothing I can do. I don't know. I could see both sides of it, but in my opinion, I sided with Karen. I did. To stand by her, to stand by Andy during the midst of this wedding to this manipulative abuser, I wouldn't be for it. So that's just me. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. These were 5 times I personally sided with Karen. Dumping Zach, leaving Danny in the dark about certain things so she wouldn't blab about it, telling Aaron to back off, not standing by Andy during the surprise wedding from Gary, and, not bailing Zach out for getting arrested for breaking into the hotel room. Like and subscribe, leave your thoughts below, and I'll catch you in the next one.